being a parent is very hard. We know our parents, right? We know how our parents raised us. Basically, being a parent is trying to help your child grow up to be a good person. That comes with having to teach them morals and values, having to putting them in schools to make sure that they're getting an education and making sure that they're eating good and making sure that they survive, right? That's like the big part is like you got to make sure your kids survive. When it comes to that, there are times when some parents lose track of their kids at times because they're either having to worry about other things. Have you ever like experienced when you're in the grocery store with your parents and your parents are looking around trying to find all the groceries? You as a little kid, maybe 5 years old, 6, you're getting distracted, but also your parent is also getting distracted. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh shoot, where's my mom? And you're like, oh, mom, and you're trying to look around and you're running around. Have you ever experienced that?
Mm-hmm.
You have? I've experienced that too. It happens. It happens to parents more times than we expected. There was a situation in Portugal where this family went on vacation. They wanted to enjoy their time there, but also they wanted to enjoy time with their friends. So a few friends went along with them on this trip and they went for spring break. One day, all the adults decided to go to dinner and they left the kids in the room, sleeping. They've done this before multiple times, so they weren't really worried about anything. And then they go to check up on the kids and Madeleine is no longer in the bed. The window is open, the door of the room was wide open. They immediately went running around trying to look for their kid, and to this day, she has never been found. Until recently, there were some reports on a suspected murderer, quote unquote, or a suspected abductor. He could have possibly abducted or quote unquote murdered Madeleine. So let's get into the story. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. This episode contains discussion of sensitive topics that may be distressing for some audiences. Please take care while listening, and if these topics are triggering for you, we encourage you to prioritize your well-being. Welcome to Tea
And E
with the T. I'm your host, Teresa.
I'm your co-host, Edwin.
And in this podcast, we talk about true crime. So if you're interested in true crime, please subscribe, like, and comment.
If you want to listen or watch more from us, check out our other episodes.
I'm going to tell you a little bit of backstory of the McCann family or McCann family. So, McCann, yeah. So Jerry and Kate, they are the McCanns, okay? Those are the parents of Madeleine and these two twins, sorry, but we'll get to there. They are both physicians. So Kate is a general practitioner and Jerry is a cardiologist, okay? So that's what they do. So they got lots of money. They're rich, okay? They got married in 1998, the year that I was born, right? Okay. They live in England, so they have their British accent. I love listening to their interviews because I like the accent. But anyways, continue.
It sounds so sophisticated.
Yeah. So they have 3 kids, okay, in total. They have Madeleine, which she was born in May 12th of 2003, which that's my dad's birthday. This is crazy. Well, not the 2003, but the May 12th. And then they also have twins. Their names are Sean and Amelie, something like that. And they were born in February 2nd of 2005. Okay. So they're like 2 years younger than Madeleine. They ended up going on vacation, like I already said in the beginning, right? Madeleine at that time was 3 years old. No, sorry, 5. 5 years old. Because it was in 2007 is when they went to vacation. Madeleine was born in 2003. She was 4. So
depending, 4 or 5.
She was turning 5 years old.
Or 6,
that
7.
year because Okay, so when they went on vacation, Madeline was 4. She was about to turn 5 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this was during spring break. They were gonna have like a family vacation. Like I said, it was in Portugal, and there are names that I cannot pronounce, but it was in Paraia. But you're better with Spanish. It's not Spanish, but it's close. Okay, how do you say it?
Payara.
Los Lagos,
Payara.
Payada,
Payara Luz Lagos.
Portugal. Okay.
Mm.
And they were planning to stay there for about a week. So it was a week-long vacation. They were going to stay in this apartment it's basically, they call it apartment 5A. That's how we're going to kind of describe it throughout the whole story. But they're in this apartment 5A, and in apartment 5A there's 2 bedrooms, a living room area, and a small kitchen. Okay?
Okay.
So it's not very big. They stayed in apartment 5A. Their friends stayed in apartment 5B, which is right next to it. And then apartment 5C was somebody else. Apartment 5D was another, part of their friends. So they all stayed in kind of the same area. Okay. So in total, there was about 8 children, okay, because those people also brought their kids, and 9 adults, okay? So this is in total, including Kate and Jerry and the twins and Madeleine, okay? So on April 29th of 2007, this is when they arrived at Portugal, okay? That was the start of their vacation, and it was going to end on May 5th. Yeah, May 5th of 2007, okay? They were around a resort. Now, this resort was called the Ocean Club Resort, and they had a swimming pool. There was 2 beaches around there, about 4 to 10 minutes away from it. There were water sports. There was like this little place where you can just go, like, whatever you wanted to do involving water. And then many restaurants, supermarkets, etc. So this is what was around the resort, and they were right next to the resort. So to kind of paint you a picture, the resort was in a gated area, and then they were staying right outside of the resort. So the day that they went, well, the day of the disappearance, when they went to the restaurant that they were going to go eat at, it was a tapas bar, Ocean Club Tapas. That's what it's called, okay? So they basically already had made reservations there, and they were supposed to get there or have the reservations at 8:30 p.m., okay? This restaurant is in the resort. So their apartment is right outside, so where they're at, cuz they requested to sit where they could see the apartment, okay? Because they did let them know that they were going to leave their kids there, and we'll get to it. But they did let them know, they noted that they were going to leave their kids there, that they needed a seat or a table in the view of the apartment. So they go to the restaurant, right? The restaurant, you can see the top of the building of the apartment, but you can't see the doors. Kate and Jerry decided to go check on the kids every 30 minutes. But as soon as they left, they get there at 8:30, right? That's where their reservation was at. And Jerry was the first person to go check on the kids around 9:05. Okay? So he goes to check on the kids. And when he gets there, he notices that the door is a bit like open. They didn't really specify if they closed the door or if they left it open, but it was a bit open. That's what he remembers, right? And he goes to check on the kids, and everything is fine. Madeline is sleeping in a single bed, and this bed is literally across from the window. Okay, so next to Madeline, there are these 2 little like cunas, like but travel ones.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what they're called in English. I think I wrote it down, but I don't remember. But they're travel little cunas, right? And that's where the babies are. Okay, because at that point the babies are like literally like 2 years old or something. So they're sleeping there, and they're kind of closer to the window. So they're like in the middle of the room. And then Madeleine is closer to the door of the room. Like I said, Jerry was the first person to go check up on the kids. So when Jerry goes to check up on the kids, everything was fine. Everything was normal. Madeleine was in her bed. The twins were sleeping. Everything was fine. Then he goes back, and on his walk back to the restaurant, he sees somebody that he knows. So he says hi, he starts having a conversation with him, and he just stays there for a few minutes. So when he stays there for a few minutes, then that's when Kate decided to go and check on the kids. By that time, it was 9:30. But Kate, I believe Jerry already came back at that time. Kate, when she got up, one of the friends, which his name was Matthew, told her, "Hey, I'll check up on your kids because I'm about to go check up on mine. So you don't worry about it. I got it." So he goes to check up on the kids, and he goes to check up on Madeleine and the twins. And when he goes, he sees that the door is wide open, but he doesn't go inside because he doesn't hear any noise. So he's like, okay, they're fine. So he goes to leave. One thing I forgot to mention, they are entering from an area, it's like a patio. Okay, so this apartment has like this, it's not even a patio, it's kind of more like it goes around the whole house, a veranda. So a veranda is kind of like a patio, but it's a bit wider. Okay. And so this in this area, that's where they had the patio doors. Okay, so that's where they would go and enter from there. So when you come from those doors, when you come from the inside and you go into the patio or walk out from the patio doors, you're gonna walk a flight of stairs, or you're gonna walk down the stairs to go out to the street. There is another door on the top of the stairs that is like a child like a gate door.
Yeah.
So that's where they're entering. They're not even entering from the main entrance. It's not the main entrance. That's not the main door. That's like the side door, the side patio, right? So this is where everybody's entering, and they left the patio doors open, unlocked on purpose, so that they can go in there faster than having to go in the front door and doing the whole thing. So yeah, so that's one thing I didn't want to mention. So Matthew goes to check up on the kids, and everything is fine. And later on, he comes back and he tells, Kate, hey, they're fine. They're still sleeping, right? Okay, so now it's 10 o'clock. So Kate, it decides to get up and go to check up on the kids at this time. So when she goes to check up on the kids, she sees that the door is fully wide open now, and then notices that the window is open as well. She sees the curtains moving. So she's like, what the heck? I know that the window wasn't open at the time that I put them to sleep. So I don't know why it's open now. So then she goes and checks on Madeleine, and Madeleine is not in her bed. So immediately she runs to the restaurant, and she tells the friends and what's his name, Jerry, that Madeleine is gone. Someone's taken her. So that's what she screams to them, right? Immediately they start searching for Madeleine. They search around the apartment, the parking lot, etc. They search around everywhere. So the police ended up arriving around 11:10 p.m. and they're called the GNR. There's a whole word for it, or a whole phrase for it.
What is that?
Whatever. It's the police. So they ended up arriving at 11:10 p.m. and it's like they're like military police. So they get there, and at first they believe that Madeleine had just wandered around. What do you think about the whole situation, or how do you feel about her
I don't think the parents should have been doing that.
doing what?
Leaving the kids in the house and going back and forth checking on them.
You wouldn't do that?
Mm-mm.
Supposedly they have done this before, like already throughout the trip. So to them, it didn't seem like it was something that it was a worry or they were concerned because one, they kind of knew a little bit of the area and they knew the people that they were like kind of what's it called, renting, or I guess renting the apartment from. But yeah, I guess they felt comfortable with the fact that, they were sitting right there in the view of the apartment and they were going to go check up on them every 30 minutes, right?
That sucks.
Yeah, so as soon as they arrived, they believed that Madeline was or had wandered off. So they were thinking that she probably just like, I don't know, opened the window and maybe she just left or something. Now, the thing with that is that the window is very high up. Well, not super high up, but pretty high up, to a point if the child would have jumped down, they would have hurt themselves. So to me, it's kind of weird. But also the door was wide open, so maybe she kind of got on from the front, but it doesn't show anything. Like there's no like nothing else was unlocked but the door that was wide open of the
But that's
bedroom
so weird. Why
and
would
the
they leave
window.
the door open?
I mean, I don't know, but we don't know where they entered from or if somebody entered. So yeah, so then they ended up bringing 4 search and rescue dogs. They arrived around 8 in the morning, and an officer placed a tape on the door of the rooms of the kids. But they just ended up leaving at 3 p.m. the next day without even securing the apartment. So technically, they had it open. They just left it like that. They ended up going back around June to try to get some stuff from there. But the problem is that there was already 20 people that have walked in and out from that apartment, so there was nothing that they could gather from the apartment. And then also after that, they ended up closing it for a month and then reopening it in August. So it was really weird as to why they would do that, because obviously there's a lot of evidence in that apartment. There can be fingerprints, there can be shoe prints, there can be anything, a hair, anything. But they decided to kind of leave it open and not really investigate too much the apartment.
Why wouldn't they investigate? That's so weird because it's like a kid is missing.
Yeah. Maybe it's because they're not. I think that there were, I don't know, I've seen a lot of things with these cases is that when you're in a different country, they don't really worry about you too much because you're not from that country. So it's like they don't really care. Does that make sense? It's sad, but it's because they're not from there. So it's like, why do we have to worry about somebody else's, people? It's just that's what happens a lot, sadly. During the
The mom.
search,
Mm-hmm.
there was around like 60 staffs and guests that were trying to search for Madeline up until 4:30 in the morning. So there were a lot of people searching for this little girl, for Madeline, because I mean, it was a little girl. She was 4 years old that went missing from not her home, but from her apartment. It was just really weird. But yeah, and then also another thing that I wanted to point out is police didn't even interview anyone and didn't even like look over surveillance cameras. So that was also really weird. I don't know. But then the investigation started. So during the investigation, there were the resort staffs that had left a note in a message book. So you remember how I told you that when they made the reservation, they told the people that were making the restaurant, or the people that were working at the restaurant, they told the people, hey, can we get a table in the view of the hotel, because we're going to be leaving our kids there and we want to make sure that we're able to like see and also get a closer area to be able to walk to there to check on them. Does that make sense? And they ended up noting that down, but it was an innocent note. that they put down on their thing because they wanted to make sure like whoever was gonna be reserving their table or whatever, giving them a table, um, knew that little note because obviously they're just doing their job, right? But they did write it down. So what Kate was thinking at that moment is that, oh my God, somebody that, or the abductor probably saw this note. So maybe it's from somebody from this resort, right?
No, it sounds like this is planned. I mean, you got to keep in mind there's some very sick people, and there's a lot of things that people do with children that are not good. It's just they literally said we're gonna leave our children in the apartment. And like I don't know if you know, not trying to downgrade people that work at restaurants, but people that work at restaurants aren't always the best people. They like to party and they like to do this, that. They like to earn a quick buck.
Mm-hmm.
And they got
So you're saying that they
children
called
there.
up? Mm,
They could have. They got children there.
maybe that would
You
make
got a
sense.
you got a free 4-year-old.
Yeah, but how, I mean,
That's so sick.
but what mind blows me is the fact that the twins were in between Madeline and the window. So
Were the twins boys or girls?
boys and girl.
Boy
It
and
was a
girl?
boy and girl. Yeah.
Well, maybe they.
And
How
then
old were they?
also they were 2 years old, 3 years old.
They probably. I don't know how what kind of clothes they were wearing, but you're not gonna take a boy. You're gonna take
Well,
a girl. And
yeah.
Madeline, you could pretty sure at 4 years old you could tell that it's a girl. Some people at 2 years old you can't tell if they're boy or girl if they
Yes, you
have
can,
neutral
baby.
clothes.
No, you can tell by their hair, their features. You
Yeah.
can
Oh
tell.
well,
And then also, it's
or
not even
maybe
that.
they didn't even realize
It's
that.
not even that.
You got a point though.
The other parents also had their kids in the apartment. They left them there as well. So it's like, why didn't they take anybody else's kids but just Madeline? So it was weird, right?
You got a point there. But I really do think that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that would make
I don't
sense
know
to be
how.
honest.
And what if like the other kids looked ugly?
I'm not. I'm not. No kid is ugly, baby. You
Say it.
better take it back because if our kids turn out ugly, I'm gonna blame you. Because I'm gonna be
I
like,
mean,
God was trying to teach you a lesson
I'm
from
just
opening your mouth
saying,
and saying
if our
everybody's
kids
ugly.
are ugly, I'll embrace them. I'll teach them how to put cologne on, how to get a haircut, how to dress nice, because ugly people be looking good when they be arreglándose, you know?
I
But
guess.
like look
But
at
there's no
me and I
ugly
don't dress
people.
good.
There's no ugly people.
Look terrible.
And that's it. Anyways, so yeah, so that's what that note was left at the restaurant. So there was a lot of suspicion there. And then also Matthew, do you remember Matthew, the one? Do you remember Matthew, the one that went to go check up on the kids for
Yeah.
Kate? So Matthew was also being like looked at because it's like, okay, he went to check up on the kids, but like he don't remember if the window was open. He also didn't even go in,
Sounds
supposedly
like
said.
Edwin, bro.
He didn't go into the room. So a lot of people were suspecting, or they were suspecting on whether he did something or like possibly could have handed Madeline to some sort of person outside the window, and that was it.
I think that's nah, that's mal calculated because it's like, bruh, I would probably do the same shit too.
Yeah, I would be like, go check on the kids, and then I'd be like, okay, did you check up
Beep
on the kids?
beep.
Yeah, I did. I looked, and that's it. I'm like, did you check if they were breathing? Did you
Exactly.
check? Did you look if they were okay?
No,
No.
they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah, so
like
maybe
they're like it's okay, nothing's gonna happen. But
yeah,
in this case, something did happen.
something did happen.
Yeah.
So then one of the other friends, her name was Rachel, which is as the wife of Matthew. So when Madeline was found missing, she went to Tanner. So this is Jane Tanner. So Jane Tanner was another friend that they were with, and she told her, "Hey, Madeline is missing," and which I don't know how she didn't know because she was in the restaurant. I don't know, it's really weird. But basically, Jane was at the restaurant, but everyone else went looking for Madeline, and Jane was over here with her daughter or her kids in the other area of restaurant, right? And so, so she says, oh, I saw a man, Jane says, I saw a man carrying a girl walking down the street. And her pajamas did look like Madeleine's, like light pink. She had a light pink, like white pajamas. And so they stated, or she stated, that she had left the restaurant around 9 p.m., but around that time she had passed Jerry after returning from checking on the kids.
And they were good.
And
he said he was
supposedly, no, this is Jane. Jane did that. Jane left the restaurant to go check up on her kids around 9 p.m. When she returned, that's when she supposedly passed Jerry and the guy that Jerry was talking to at that time. Because remember how Jerry went to go check up on the kids at 9:05? Well, by the time she got back, Jerry and his friend were there outside the restaurant or the resort talking. Okay, so, but Jerry doesn't remember seeing her go back in or walk past them at all. So it was a little bit odd. And then also, police questioned it because it was a narrow street and it was impossible for them to not even see her. So it was either they just were focused on the conversation or she just never passed and she was lying. So we don't know that, right? But she described the man as a white, dark-haired, 5'7", Mediterranean appearance and around 35 to 40 years old, wearing gold or beige trousers and a dark jacket and a slight beard. And then she said that he didn't look like a tourist. The child was barefoot without a blanket and light-colored pink PJs similar to Madeleine's. And there was another sighting, but this sighting was another person. So it was a couple, and their names were Martin and Mary Smith. And they also reported seeing a man carrying a little girl. And they said that it was around 10 p.m., and they said that he was around the apartment area, around apartment 5A, about 500 yards from it. And they said that the kid had blonde hair, light-colored PJs, and barefoot. And then the man was in his mid-30s, 5'7" to 5'9", slim, short brown hair, wearing cream or beige trousers, didn't look like a tourist, and uncomfortable carrying the child. And then they ended up, yeah, it sounded the same. And they ended up giving a description of the person, and they ended up the police ended up making a e-fit, which was created in 2008, but then later released in 2013. And this was the image that they came up with. So that looks like two different people, but whatever. Those are the images that they came up with. I mean, that was it. That's all they came up with, right? So then 12 days after the disappearance, Robert was now a suspect. The reason why is because, well, Robert is like he's a 34-year-old British Portuguese. Is that correct? Portuguese. Yeah, right. Yeah. He was a British Portuguese, and he has many businesses. He's a property consultant and was the first formal suspect. He was born in the UK and lived in his mother's home, which was 150 yards from the apartment of 5A, apartment 5A. And supposedly that's where Jane saw a man walking around with the kid. Okay? He can speak fluent Portuguese and English, right? Because he's from the UK, but his mom is from Portugal. So he can speak both languages. And he is a very well-known man. He owns many businesses, and he is liked by many others, right? But he had volunteered as a translator for the police and the Tapas 7. So the Tapas 7, they ended up naming the friends that were at the Tapas restaurant, the Tapa Seven. So the Tapa Seven are the friends, the friend group, and then the other two is Kate and Jerry. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna refer them as Tapa Seven a lot, okay, because it's easier. So yeah, so he ended up volunteering as a translator for the police and the Tapa Seven, and said that he wanted to help because he had a daughter in England around Madeleine's age, which this drew a red flag for the police because they were like, why do you want to be involved so badly? Because he was like insisting, like, I want to be involved in this case, like, put me in this case, like,
I
I
mean,
want
he
to.
doesn't have a daughter, so
I mean,
he would know how it would feel,
yes, but it just made
and it's that
people,
same
they
age.
gotta be like
Suspicious, yeah,
suspicious
like on
about
their
everyone,
toes,
you
yeah.
know. So yeah, so he was so eager to be involved himself in the to involve himself in the investigation, and frequently presented himself at the police station. Like he would always be at the police station trying to figure out if there was any updates or anything like that. So it was a little bit odd and suspicious for the police. And then supposedly, three members from the Tapas Seven claimed that they have seen or they saw Robert, the man, outside apartment 5A after disappearance. Um, and then so did a Ocean Club nanny and two other people. Supposedly, they saw him outside of the apartment 5A around the time of her Madeleine's disappearance, right? And so that also raised a lot of red flags for the police because they were like, well, why were you around the apartment? For what reason? Like, why would you be there? But anyways, around the same time, the police received an anonymous call from a woman speaking fluent Portuguese, claiming that a man named Robert had abducted Madeleine. And Robert had often visited sexual explicit chats and always encrypted his emails. So it's something that, like, it
That's
was odd.
weird. Okay,
Yeah,
that's weird.
it was odd I mean, it was an odd behavior, right? So police went to his house May 14th, keeping him for questioning. So they kept him for questioning, and they searched his pool, his cars, his computers, his phones, videotapes. They searched everything, and then they also searched the garden that he had in his backyard, with a ground radar and sniffer dogs. But the report, so they ended up sending that out, and the report came out inconclusive.
What does that mean?
Basically, like, there's nothing they can come up with this. Like, it's just like, it's like saying like um
It's not
unidentified.
relevant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unidentified. So around the same time, the computer expert I think his name is Sergi Malinka discovered his Audi A4 smoking, and on the pavement next to the car, which his Audi, Sergi's Audi, so his Audi, right? On the pavement next to his car read "Speak" in Portuguese. And so he was like, what the heck? And he is associated with Robert. Sergi, yeah. Sergi, whatever his name is. He is associated with Robert. So the police found that suspicious. And yeah, so it just seemed like somebody was trying to get him to speak or wanting him to speak or speak up, or I don't know if somebody knew something. It was odd, right? So Malinka was later questioned because police found in his phone records that Robert had called Malinka at 11:40 p.m. the night of the disappearance. So why would he want to call him? For what? Right? So it was really weird. But anyways, police searched his computer, hard drives, and a black pen bag, finding disks wiped clean. So everything was already wiped before. He denied any involvement with the case with Madeleine and claimed that police beat him during his interrogation to force confession. But we don't know if that's actually true.
It is another country.
They probably did. But anyways, yeah, so that's what happened to him. But by July 21st, 2008, Robert was let go due to the lack of evidence. So they ended up releasing him and they didn't see him as a suspect anymore. That's weird because it's like they obviously like he seems like very fishy, so like why would you, but there's no evidence to kind of,
Hard evidence.
yeah, to
There's
connect him.
only like fishy stuff, but no concrete.
Yeah. So that's what's hard with these cases because it's like you can find little things here and there, but if you don't have hard evidence that he is connected to Madeleine, you can't really arrest somebody. So, yeah. But a weird fact, David Payne, which is Fiona's husband, which is one of the friends of the Tapa 7, or in the Tapa 7, he resembles Robert. And so Fiona was the first person to allegedly see Robert, but never included it in the initial statement until the police mentioned Robert. But it's like, okay, well, what happened there? Like, why didn't you include that? Because if you remember in the beginning, like nobody ever stated about this man until all of a sudden police was like, okay, there's this guy that's probably suspicion. They're like, oh yeah, he's the one that I saw, you know? So none of them actually included it into their initial statement
Well,
until
there's
later
a
on.
psychology thing, like and it's just psychology thing. I don't know exactly what it is, but when somebody like in that case, like they'll believe it was him. I was like, oh yeah, that was him, just
Their
because
mind plays
yeah,
games on them.
their mind plays games on them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I've experienced that myself. I'm like, oh shoot, I know I saw something, but I didn't. Did I actually see something? Because I be scaring myself down here sometimes because I'm like, oh shoot, what did I say? Oh no, I didn't.
and
I
then
hope
you
not.
be thinking about it because like
Yeah,
you
and then you
thought
see
you
keep
saw.
or
Yeah,
hearing things,
yeah,
and
and
yeah,
you just go back upstairs.
yep. But nothing happens, I swear. But anyways, rumors and suspicion, like suspicious acts or suspicious things ended up happening or started going around, right? So there was an article on a Portuguese magazine that claimed that the Tapa 7 were swingers. You know what swingers are? Basically, like people,
But let each other borrow their partners.
yes.
Mm,
So they're like within each other, right? And so they're swingers, and then they ended up basically staging the whole Robert incident about Robert being around the apartment, seeing him around the apartment. Do you remember?
yeah.
So yeah, so that they staged that whole thing. That was in a magazine in Portugal. And then different stories came out from Kate and Jerry. So this is when Kate and Jerry started becoming very like they started the police started seeing them as as suspects. Because Jerry stated that he entered or they entered through the front locked door, but later claimed using the unlocked patio door. So it was odd because they for sure stated that they were going through the patio door, but then for him to state that they were going through the locked door, the front locked door, it was just weird. I don't know. Police asked Kate why she ran to the restaurant, leaving the twins instead of calling, her husband or screaming outside and be like, the kids, because they're right there, they're not that far. Why would you leave your kids on your twins unattended and knowing that Madeleine was taken? So that was another thing that they were like, this is weird.
I
Right?
mean, it does seem like their parents que son mal cuidados. I guess
Yeah.
mis
Well,
cuidados,
I think
something
in
like that.
that type of like when you're like scared, well, I guess you don't think like let me grab my other kids, like because you're not very, I mean, she did say someone took her. She did state as soon as she went to the restaurant, someone took her. So it's like, what? How do you know someone took her? Me personally, I would have been like, she ran away, or she got up or
She's
left. She's
missing.
missing. Like, she disappeared. Like, she's not in
She's not
bed.
here.
What's going on? Like, I would never suspect that someone took her. But that's what she
Her own
says.
child.
Mhm. So yeah, so then the shutter on the window in the room was made out of this type of metal. It was like non-ferrous non-ferrous metal, which basically it's lower in strength than a ferrous metal. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's kind of like it's not very hard to bend or anything like that. You know, in the windows where there's like
Like
things that you could
aluminum,
just pull
kind
out.
of.
Yeah. So it's like that. But you can only open that from the inside. You can't open it from the outside. So if you were to open the window, it's kind of like it's
Yeah,
glued to the thing.
engineering kind of
So
deal.
yeah, so you
Mm-hmm.
can't really open it. It's really hard to open it from the outside. So you would have to open it from the inside. So they're thinking that, okay, the intruder or whoever came inside, grabbed Madeline, and then went outside through the window. But then
Why?
also, I don't know, it's weird. But then also they were thinking about, like, okay, well, the twins were in the middle, and now in the middle there is literally not much space to walk through. So how did the Madeline and the guy, whoever took her, go through the window and make that struggle to go out the window instead of going out from where they came from? Which, where did they come from? Or did they come from the window to the inside and then left from the other door? But it's like, you cannot go into the window
This
without
whole story
struggling.
seems a little fishy.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. So then the detectives also find a timeline in the back of a child's book from the Kate and Jerry, with the items that they gathered from them, and it was basically a timeline of what happened and everything. So they're suspecting that they were running through the timeline so that they could get the same, or say the same things to the police. And this timeline, or whatever this is that they found, this was not reported to the police at all. So they were like kind of suspecting something. So these these inconsistent what's it called, things made police question whether the abduction was actually real. So on July 31st of 2007, police brought two sniffer dogs, I'm sorry, to the apartment 5A. Keela is one of the dogs, and she basically gives a passive alert. So she will scent a human's blood and then places her nose on it and keeps it there until the police, whoever is in charge of her, comes and checks it out. And then Eddie, which is the other dog, he is an active alert, and he scents human remains, and he'll bark when he senses it. Both dogs entered the home, and they alerted behind the sofa. So both the dogs alerted behind the sofa. Eddie alerted in the main room near the closet, and also the cuddle cat, which is a little cat that Madeline had. It was like a little stuffed animal, in the living room as well. So Eddie also alerted to Kate's clothes and boxes police took to investigate. And on August 6th, police got access to a rental car that they used, and Eddie alerted the driver's door and Keela on the inside of the trunk. So it was really weird as to why they would be alerting to all these things. It wasn't just one thing. It's like their car, the inside, and
That's
everything.
crazy.
So the McCains rented this car 3 weeks after the disappearance, and they're thinking that it was probably like the reason why the dogs picked up the scent was because her her dead body, possibly, Supposedly, let's say that.
Allegedly.
Yeah, yeah, allegedly was transferred. Like whatever stuff, like if they touched her, it was transferred onto each item.
Mm.
So that's what they were thinking. And then they also had hair sampling tests from the apartment, but it was too contaminated, so they couldn't pick anything up from it. And then police questioned Kate and Jerry, but despite their suspicion, they ended up giving them permission to go back to the UK. So they ended up going back on September 9th of 2007.
And it happened in August.
No, this happened in April. Well, no. So when she went missing, it was in May, on May
Mm.
3rd. Sorry.
Mm.
I don't know if I mentioned that, but she went missing May 3rd,
That's
2007.
crazy.
And they ended up going back, or they ended up allowing her parents back to the UK September 9th, 2007.
That's weird.
Well, they were holding them because obviously the parents are probably wanting
No,
to
but that's a
know.
lot of months.
What do you mean?
From May,
To
June,
September.
July, August, September. That's 4 months.
Yep. Yeah, so a chief inspector from Portugal wrote a report stating that Madeleine died in the apartment 5A due to an accident. So they claimed that the Tapa 7 staged it all and covered up or tried to cover up the death.
That's what they said.
That's what the chief inspector came up with. So it was just like, it was his theory, I
That's
guess you could say.
crazy.
Yeah. And he's also said that they concealed the body for a month and eventually transported it to the rental car. But on July 2008, a Portuguese attorney announced no evidence linked to the parents and to Madeleine's disappearance. So case closed. They closed the case.
That's weird.
Yeah. So the theories are number one, unintentionally murdered. So they're thinking that it was the parents, that the parents decided to give Madeleine some medication, some medicine to make her help her sleep. Okay. But they're thinking that they probably overdosed her.
Dang.
Okay.
That makes sense because they wanted to go and do their own thing.
I don't know. But they're thinking, but they weren't the only parents. Like all the other parents did the same thing. Well, not the medication. I don't know about that. I don't know how true that is, but they left their kids at the
Mm-hmm.
apartment. It was just something that they all did. But yeah, so that's what they believe, that there's this theory that they probably overdosed her, and what they were trying to do was hide her body and not have anybody suspect anything of it. So they hid her body for a month before officially disposing of it with the rental car. So the reason why they came up with this type of theory, this is basically the police officers from Portugal that came up with this theory, was because of their backgrounds. They're both physicians, so it's like
They would know how to do that.
they would know, right? So supposedly, when they left the apartment 5A, the fridge was missing. So Jerry had decided to dispose the fridge
Wait,
because it was
what?
broken. Yeah. So it went missing. The fridge. I think it was a mini fridge, or I'm not sure if it's a regular size fridge, but one of the fridges from the apartment went missing, and supposedly Jerry had decided to dispose of the fridge because it was broken instead of calling the landlord or whoever was in charge of the apartment to dispose, and he ended up disposing it himself.
Because they knew the landlord, right?
Hmm?
Because they knew the landlord.
Supposedly, yeah. But he ended up doing that on his own for I don't know what reason. But supposedly he had gotten aggravated because of all the things that were happening, and he was like, the fridge is broken, so he was like, I might as well just do it. So he just threw it away. And then supposedly Kate washed the toy, the little cat, before she gave it to the police. But her statement was the reason why she wanted to watch it is because so many people were walking in and out and touching the thing. So she was like, um, there was just too many deaths, and like, what if she comes back?
Oh, this
So
is
she ended up watching
suspicious.
it. Yeah. And which is crazy. Why would she want to touch the cat or the stuffed animal when your daughter is missing? That could have a lot of like, you know,
Trigger.
a lot of
Trauma.
fingerprints. No,
Oh,
it can have a lot of fingerprints in it or some sort of thing on the stuffed animal to be able to find the person that possibly,
I
you know,
would
took her.
I would have thought I would have thought that it would have been too much of sentimental value, like that,
To yeah,
to
to wash
wash
it
it or even look
because
at
you
it.
can probably smell her or something, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was weird, but yeah, she ended up washing the toy. And then Jerry discredited the dogs that probably, you know, they were they were trained wrong, or they were trained some sort of way, or maybe they picked up some sort of other type of thing and it wasn't what it was, and then but it was basically confirmed that they were accurate from another case that they were used because the dogs had a strong track record. So the dogs were, they found what they found, right? But we don't know. The twins, like I said, I mentioned before, suspiciously didn't wake up when Madeleine allegedly was abducted. So the twins were still asleep in the middle of the room, and Madeleine was near the door, and they didn't wake up.
Yeah, that does that. Yeah, that is kind of weird.
So that's one theory, right? Another theory is that she was abducted. So there were sights of men carrying her, like I said before. There were sights of a man, you know, taking Madeleine or taking a girl that looked like Madeleine. And there was also a lot of sex offenders around that area. So possibly somebody probably found out of that note and could have taken Madeleine.
That's crazy.
In 2020, a new suspect, he was a 40-year-old man. He was a sex offender in the area, and he was around the same area that Madeleine disappeared on the same night, and they're suspecting that he probably could have been involved. So currently he is in prison for an unrelated, you know, SA charge. SA is a sexual
Sexual
assault.
assault.
And he has a really lengthy criminal history. So it goes way back till he was like 15 years old. And most of them are involving children.
Hmm.
So in 2016, police searched an abandoned factory on one of his properties, and they had just released what they found. So, one, they found a hard drive with disturbing messages, including a Skype chat saying that he wanted to capture something small and use it for days. And then they found little girls' swimsuits, about 75 of them. Mhm. Another thing that they found were kid toys. Another thing is chemicals. And then they found 6 USB drives and memory cards showing horrible photos and child abuse. Photos, yeah, horrible photos and also child abuse within those photos. These USB drives was buried underneath his deceased dog. Mhm. Supposedly, one of the hard drives contains Madeleine is dead.
Huh?
One of the hard drives contains some sort of information that Madeleine is dead, but they haven't released anything or has confirmed anything.
Why? Why would they say that then?
I don't know if they're saying it or people are saying it. They found something about Madeleine. But rumor is that they did, but they haven't confirmed or yet let gave it to the public, right? So, allegedly, he had confessed that he abducted Madeleine and reported that she did not scream when he abducted her.
You said allegedly.
Allegedly. Allegedly,
Wait, when? Wait, is this going under investigation still?
this is a rumor going around. This is a rumor
How
going
long
around.
ago?
Well, he was convicted on in 2020, and just recently these things were being released or being said. Okay?
Dang.
2 years before the disappearance of Madeleine, he had essayed a 75-year-old woman in the exact same town that she went missing. He was convicted in 2019 and he is now he was serving 7 years in prison, but was let out this year in September. As of right now,
Early.
he is still a primary suspect, but no charges have been found or have been, yeah, he's not been
It's
charged.
crazy that he can do all that stuff and get away with it.
And only gets 7 years in prison. Well, not
Yeah.
even. He
We're
didn't
not in
even stay.
America.
Still, it's crazy. But yeah, so to this day, Madeleine's body has not been found. And to this day, we still don't know 100% what happened to Madeleine. And was she taken?
It's a lot of
Did her
crazy stuff.
parents do something?
That's sus. All of it's very sus.
Yeah. All of it does not make sense to me. I'm like, what the freak? I am so confused. Like, it's just,
Yeah, it threw me for a curveball because it sounds like the parents are lying.
they're
And
not.
then it sounds, huh?
Well, I mean, they have been proven innocent throughout the years. And a lot of people, there's some people that protect them, there's some people that are like against them. So it's like, it's hard to say. That's why I said some like that thing in the beginning with the parents. It's like, it's hard to be a parent
Mm.
because at times you could be doing something wrong in other people's eyes, but you think it's right. You think it's the right thing to do for
Or you
your
don't
kids.
think it's like,
Yeah. Or you don't think it's that big of a deal. Yeah. So it's hard to say because every parent is different and how they raise their kids and how they treat their kids and what they do, how they parent. But yeah, they were proven innocent, and nobody has been convicted for that crime. I mean, for Madeleine's disappearance.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let us know in the comment section what you think. You think she was abducted? Or did they try to cover up her death? Or did the parents have something to do with taking her away, allegedly?
I don't know.
That's crazy stuff to think about. It's like it's your blood, it's your child.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that part too much. I think maybe I believe, right, that she was taken
Yeah.
because the parents were not really taking care of them so good, you know?
Yeah.
And the abductor was a like easy target. You know what I mean? Or she might have even been told by the people at the restaurant.
I don't know. I think I'm back and forth. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe the parents did it, and then I'm like, wait, no, it can't be.
Yeah, it was
It's
weird.
just
While you were telling me, I was like
you go
that.
back and forth, and
Yeah,
it's hard to think about. But yeah, but be safe out there, and please, and if you're a parent, please take care of your kids. I'm not saying that they didn't take care of the kids, but do as much as you can to make sure that your kids are okay and safe, especially at a very young age, when they can be easily taken.
oh yeah. When they're
Yeah,
oblivious of all that stuff.
yeah. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one.
This is
Bye.